can take up to 2 minutes.
Yay! We are live on YouTube. We're like the cool kids now, Becky.
That's pretty great.
We're the cool kids. We're on YouTube Live. Hello to everyone who is joining us this evening or who will see this later. This is the BYOU Beyond the Classroom podcast episode
So great.
2.
So,
Yes, I'm very, very excited to just be able to share space with this wonderful, amazing human here, Becky. And I want to tell you all a little bit about her. And then, of course, Becky, if you want to add anything, please do let the people know just how awesome you are. But I'll get us started. So, Becky is a teacher, writer, curious explorer, and we'll hear more about her explorations a little later. So, in 2018, Becky quit a long-term teaching career, sold almost all of her possessions, y'all, and followed her dreams to be a United States Peace Corps volunteer in, drum roll, Ecuador. So to this point today, she continues to teach and write, volunteer, slow travel, which definitely want you to tell everyone what you mean when you say slow travel, because that sounds like cool and exciting, and hike her way through Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Argentina. So right now, I am in stateside. Okay, not as exciting as where Becky is because she is now in this moment while we're on this call in South America. So, woo! So exciting. And anything that you want to add just to let people know more about who you are and introducing yourself to the world?
No, I think you've given a good background. I think some of your questions will bring out more of who I am.
Yes.
Yeah, let's just go with that for now.
Let's go with it. I love it. Well, of course, very, very much gratitude for you making this all the way from a whole different part of the world. So yeah, let's just dive into it.
Okay.
And really leaning into like that first beginning of the intro that I just shared. You quit a long-term teaching career. And let me just also say this, Becky, for the audience, because people know often I work with folks who are like educators looking to figure out kind of do they want to transition into entrepreneurship and what that journey looks like. But a big part of that and the foundation, I think, of our conversation today is more about the larger theme is what does it mean to live your dream life?
Yeah.
It might not be the entrepreneur route, but as a teacher, what does it mean if you start to feel like, I want to be open to other possibilities outside of the classroom? So I just wanted to make sure folks were clear on this conversation. It's not about entrepreneurship. It's about what does it mean to live your dream life. So
Here I am. Yeah.
And here you are. You had a long-term teaching career. You sold all your positions. What was that moment for you, Becky, when you realized, I think I'm going to transition out of this role? Tell us, walk us back to that moment.
Okay, so this is kind of a involved story a little bit. I had been teaching 4th and 5th grade for almost 18 years. And it was all in the same school. I helped start a school. It was a small community school in Portland, Oregon. And I loved my job. I loved my students. I loved my community and the parents and the other teachers. And we just worked so, so hard to give the best education and the best life opportunities to our students that were from all over the world. There were many, many immigrants from South and Central America and Mexico, but many other immigrants from Eastern Europe and Southeast Asia, and we spoke many different languages and fed them breakfast and lunch and dinner, and it was just an amazing community of trying to lift each other up and help these students that were really, really had some difficult challenges ahead of them, and I loved my life. I mean, I love teaching. I'm very passionate about teaching, and but in 2016, life really threw me some curveballs, and I found myself in a dissolving marriage that was really falling apart. And I had several people, 4 people in my family pass away in the same year. And there was just a tremendous amount of grief that I was dealing with, and trying to deal with issues with my marriage and my community, as I just described. As much as I love them, they needed and needed and needed a lot from me. It was very difficult to juggle them, juggle my own personal life, my own grief, and all that was happening in my life. And I just was really falling apart, frankly. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And I remember there was one day specifically that I thought, I can't even get out of bed right now. It just was, I was in such dire straits. And I called in a sub, and it was a Friday. And I just said, I need a day, a mental health day to myself. I need to lay in my bed. And frankly, my plan was to just cry all day. It just
Yeah.
was too hard, and there was too much going on. And I just really was at a loss. And as I remember, as I was laying in my bed and journaling and just thinking and crying and trying to figure all this out, I remembered that there was a box way back in my closet that was filled with letters. And I hadn't looked inside this box for years and years, like we do when we shove things in the back of the
Yeah.
closet. And I remember clearly getting up out of my bed in all my crumpled pajamas and, tear-streaked face. And I went and I crawled into the closet and I pulled that box out and I sat on the wooden floor and I started going through these letters. And there were letters from my parents, and there were letters from my grandmother, and all those letters from many years before. But in this box was letters that were love letters between me and my husband, but at the time that we were boyfriend and girlfriend and living in different states.
Wow.
When we finally had gotten together, he had saved all of my letters and I had saved all of his, and they were together in a bundle in this box. And I was trying to figure out what had gone wrong and what I was going to be able to do now. And it was, as I was going through these letters, I was reading my voice from when I was 20 years old and 22 and 23. And this voice was so strong and so passionate about her dreams. And
Oh,
she, talked so much about what she wanted to do in her life. And at 23, she was so wise. And
wow.
she said, I want to work in the world to help people. I want to be of service to others. I want to
Mm,
live in another country. I want to travel the world. I want to meet people and see all the good in the world. And most of all, I want to join the Peace Corps. I want to join the Peace Corps. I want to do that. I've been wanting to do that since I was a kid. And I remember clearly that, all of these letters, all of my pleas in these passionate letters when I was in my 20s kind of fell on deaf ears. Frankly, that wasn't his dream, but he kept saying, yeah, 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 someday, someday. And
mm,
years later, I was clearly coming to the realization that all of his dreams were not my dreams,
mm.
and our life together was not what I needed anymore, and it's not what I wanted anymore. And so sitting there on that cold, hard wooden floor, I said, damn it, I'm gonna go join the Peace Corps. And
Wow.
so I did. I and searching it right away. And within a couple months, I had done all the research. I had done all the applications, the interviews. I had gotten a formal acceptance as long as I could pass the Spanish test. So then I started studying Spanish and studying Spanish, and I just decided I needed to do this in my life. I needed to start over. And so I went to my school district and I said, this is something I have to do. Can I take a leave of absence? So
Mm,
that gave me a cushion to come back to just in case it didn't
mm,
work out. It wasn't
yeah.
what I wanted. And besides, a Peace Corps experience is 27 months. And so, okay, what am I going to do after it? Well, I'll come back. I'll come back to the
Mm,
school and the community that I love. And so that was my plan all along. Um,
Mhm.
but in the meantime, I was dissolving a home and getting rid of lots of possessions, and I really did get rid of almost everything except a few boxes. But my plan was to come back, and once I had all of that in place, it was just so easy just go, because I had
Wow.
something I was going towards now, and
Wow.
that was
That is so my God, that is such a powerful life experience that you just shared. Thank you just for being so open and vulnerable, and it makes me wonder after hearing that, when you look back, the part about, my plan was to, you could fall back on that after 27 months. Your plan was
Mhm.
to go back. Looking back, do you see it from a different lens or different perspective, like around the having that cushion to go back to thing or going back to that
Yeah, that
versus
cushion made it easier, right? I'm coming back to something, and really all I saved was enough in boxes to kind of set up a small apartment again, and I got friends to keep those boxes for me. It was only gonna be for 2 years, and yeah, I mean, I guess that made that step easier.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
It made the step easier. It's almost like having that cushion made the step moving forward easier. 'Cause you
Mhm.
didn't know then what you know now that you weren't
No,
to
no,
return, but
no.
hearing as a stranger, hearing it for
Mhm.
the first time when you're telling the story, like, it's so powerful and so
Mhm.
hearty and so beautiful, and as soon as I heard that, my immediate, like, response in my mind is like, "Oh,
Mhm.
she's not going back," because
And that was pretty
people
clear. I don't think anyone thought that, but as soon as I got here, it was pretty clear. I was like, wow, my life could be so much different. I don't really need to go back into what was so painful and hard.
Oh my gosh, that is a nugget. I don't really need to go back to what was so painful. Because again, it's not about you not loving your community or loving teaching and loving
No.
what you did. But there were so many layers that compounded that. It was
Right.
very
Right.
complex, right?
Right. But it's right, absolutely. But when you make a change, you're going towards something else. And at some point you realize, why go back? Why go backwards? Like, you need to go forwards in life.
Ooh,
And I just realized that there's so much more that is different. Not more meaning better, just
mhm.
different, and so much more that I wanted to explore and live through and experience, and I don't need to go back. I can just
Yeah.
keep going forward.
Yeah. And take me back to like, and we're gonna go forward as well, but take me back to okay, so you found the love letters, you found the box,
Mhm,
you step back into your 20-year-old self as you're
mhm,
reading those letters because
mhm,
20-year-old Becky has said, like, I want to join a Peace Corps. These are the things that I want to do. Was it
mhm.
the relationship that was the shift where 20-year-old Becky didn't just immediately join the Peace Corps? Like, what was that the thing where you didn't join it?
Yeah, the reason why I didn't?
Yes.
Yeah, that cute boy talked me out of it.
He was like, no.
And yeah, and 30 years later, he's not around anymore.
Mm,
So yeah, I
wow.
let a cute boy talk me out of something that was my dream, and gosh
Whew.
darn it, why
Ah,
do we do that?
but you're living your dream now, and
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
these
yeah,
questions are honestly coming to me as you're sharing your story, so,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
this is, like, just amazing. So, knowing what you know now,
Mhm.
what would you tell your 20-year-old self today? Like, having the information that you have now?
I don't well, oh boy, I would tell her, don't let a cute boy talk you out of doing something. If he's the right boy for you, he's gonna wait for you, right? So that's what
Mm,
I would tell her. But the bottom line is that, I was just sitting there reading those letters and just listening to that voice. I felt like she was so strong and she was so wise. She's the one that's still giving me advice today, right? It's
ooh,
going back to Becky. Who's Becky? Who is Becky at her core?
yeah.
And she's the one that I want to go back to. Yeah.
I love that, and when you write that book, Send me an email. I'm going to buy it. Yes, because that,
Yeah.
yeah, you definitely have a
Mhm.
powerful story that I think not just people in education and educators and
Mhm.
teachers can learn from, but like the
Mhm.
world, they can definitely learn from.
Yeah.
So when you look back in that, and especially because you helped to start and found this particular
Mhm.
school you were at,
Yeah.
what is the thing that you miss the most?
Oh, yeah, the community.
Mhm,
Us teachers together and our principal, we were very, very close, and,
mhm,
they just were a great support system, and of course, the kids and their parents. I was a so like you said, I was a 4th and 5th grade teacher for almost 18 years, and most of those years I looped with my kids, so I had them for 2 years. And
okay.
so I became very, very close to so many of those kids and their parents,
Mhm,
because I was not only was I teaching, but I was having after school homework sessions and after
mhm,
school, girls clubs to support the girls. And had a garden, a large garden at the school that I was helping families learn how to raise their own food and giving the produce to the food bank. And so I spent a lot of personal time with
mhm.
these parents and these families over the years. And many of them I am still very close to. I'm very close to. And I've been invited to weddings and baby showers.
Oh,
And I love that relationship. And I do miss that. I
yeah.
really do.
Do
Yeah,
you
giving those amazing opportunities to kids at age 10. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like you've been able to so we're getting to kind of into the territory of the F word, fear, right?
Ah.
So what's coming up for me now based on what you just said is like, do you feel like you've been able to create community in your new space now where you are? Or do you feel like a nagging pull of like, I can't wait to like get back to visit the States again? Like I miss or like, how are you navigating building community and new friendships and new relationships in this season of your life?
Great question. Great question. It's something that I definitely have to put more effort into in what I'm doing now. So I'll start with when I got to the Peace Corps in 2018. So all of it was decided by fall of 2017, and I jumped on a plane in 2018. And so I came to Ecuador, and I was teaching. I was first assigned kind of a K through 12
Mhm,
school. So I was helping teach English classes to the kids, but really my purpose was to help teach the teachers
mhm,
how to be more dynamic English teachers, right? We
mhm,
all know that teaching a second language when kids don't have any chance to practice it is a really hard go.
mhm.
And so I was trying to help instill in the teachers different ideas for games and different ways that the kids could get more excited about learning English, right? And so I did that, but I ended up finding another smaller school that I felt were more needy to me,
Mhm.
and I really had a great community there of those kids, and did a lot of after school clubs to support them and things like that. But then I found my way over to the university, and at first I was teaching. That's the greatest thing about Peace Corps. You get to do what you want to
I
do.
love
It's so
that. It's
great.
so cool.
I could do a whole podcast on how wonderful the Peace Corps is. And
Ugh,
it just
love
opened up my eyes into so many things. And I grew so much as a person and as an educator
mm,
because here now I'm teaching teachers and I go over to the university and I started teaching some intensive English classes. But then I got into the education school where it was the student teachers that were
mhm.
learning how to become English teachers.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I suddenly my career just opened up that now I'm teaching the future teachers their methodology classes. And what
Wow.
an amazing experience. Like that's not something that I'm necessarily qualified to do in the
Mhm,
United States. I have a master's degree, but I don't have a PhD. I can't teach at a
mhm,
university like that, right? And
mhm.
so, but in Peace Corps, you can do that. And so it was so much fun. I felt like I was making such a difference
Mm.
for these students, these young adults that were just hungry for understanding more methodology and strategies for teaching English as a second
Yeah,
language. And I was helping them write their theses and just really getting and teaching them, about theories, that they
yeah,
had never heard of before. They didn't know
totally.
about, I do, we do, you do, and things like
Yeah.
that. like really basic stuff that we learn at nauseum in our teaching, programs, but they don't get that down here. And so I was making a huge difference with those teachers. And it was really, really fun to be a part of that. And
Yeah.
then now we may talk about this a little bit later, but now I'm teaching online. And so as I travel, I'm teaching adults from around the world that log into it's an online conversational platform. And
Yeah.
I have had so many students tell me what a difference I am making for them around the world, just to be able to better their life because
Yeah.
they have a second language and they can get a job with maybe an international company or in travel or in trade or business. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
changing lives every
You
day,
are changing, like, you're
especially
still
for
doing meaningful work.
populations. It's
Yeah.
not for the grade kids anymore, but it's really, and it's opened up myself as an educator that I feel like, it's a life of professional development. I'm learning and growing as well. And it's so much fun.
Oh my god, I hear like, you're getting me excited because your energy just exudes outside, it's just
Yeah,
pouring out, and what do you notice,
so much fun.
or I guess
Mhm.
I should say, do you see any differences in just when you step into the schools or in the universities in Ecuador versus in America? Do you see any stark differences that, like, what is the one
Oh
thing
yeah.
that stands out to you the most that's different?
Oh yeah. Not even. Oh yeah.
Not even okay.
It's
Yes.
well, first of all, they pack 40 kids in a classroom down here.
Mm,
And English teachers, that's really all I can speak to. English teachers are not necessarily very qualified to teach English all the time.
mm,
They could be just a warm body
mhm.
and they're just following a book.
Yeah.
And they don't even understand the book.
Oh, wow.
Um, there's just yeah, it's really different. It's really
Yeah.
different. Things start to really intensify at the university level. Things get really
Mhm.
serious at the
Okay.
university level. But yeah, schools abroad around the world are very different. Yeah. Yeah, very different.
Do you see something that is like, "I wish this happened more in American schools," that you really like in the schools there, that you wish you saw more of in schools in America?
Well, here's something really interesting. I the first year that I was in Peace Corps, I was shocked. For example, I can just speak to Ecuador at this
Yeah.
moment. I have taught in other places, but in Ecuador, I was really shocked when I first arrived how many days of school are non-educational. The kids come to school and it's some holiday, and there's a lot of holidays in Ecuador. They love to have fun in their holidays. And
Yeah.
so it's just a party all day at school. Or
Mm.
there's they're going to have a dance contest, and so all the kids get to go and watch the dance contest. Or there's a parade outside, so everybody leaves school to go out to the parade. There's not really hard academic standards like we would have in the United States. And
Mhm.
I was shocked at the lack of attention to intense education because I had come
Mhm.
from the United States system, right, where we have tests at the end of the year and we have to get through the book and these intense teachings and or lesson planning, and I didn't see that here at all, not at all.
Yeah. That's
And the good thing about Peace Corps is that you spend 2 years in a place, and
Mhm.
so your ideas really change over time. And I came to realize that so I'm this isn't a critique on the lack of education system
Sure.
or better or worse of Ecuador. But what I realized was that in all of that process of taking kids out of the classroom and putting them together as a form of community,
Mm.
whether they're cheering on their fellow friends in sports competitions or in dance competitions or in music parades
Mhm.
or other kinds of festivals or whatever, there is
Mhm.
really close knit community that they're creating between the students
Mhm.
and within Ecuadorians and
Yeah.
Ecuador is a tiny little country, but it is so mighty. And the students here are very much believe that whatever they do in their life, they need to do for the good of their country.
Mm,
And it's but it's not patriotic in a way that is harmful for others. It's
right,
how do we be the best we can be.
right.
And what I saw then, what I really understood then was that their system down here is really creating a beautiful community
Hmm.
where we don't necessarily do things like that in the United States
No, we
necessarily.
don't. I saw that, and I'm glad you actually that you answered the question I was getting ready to ask, but yeah, I saw that when I lived in Mexico because I volunteered
Mhm.
at the elementary school. I guess we can never get away, right? Like, I was like, I really wanna go check it out, and a friend told me about it, and I
Right,
was
right,
just
right, right.
very
Mhm.
familial, like, the culture is very, like, very
Yes,
familial, and the prioritizing pride in our culture and in our
yes.
connected tissues with our families,
Yes,
extended
yes.
families.
Our connected experience.
Yes.
Yeah, yes,
Yes.
the good of our community. That's prioritized, and I really love that down here now. Yeah.
Yes, I love that too. I just got a message. I wanna just check it out to see what's happening on here. Let me see. Just from on our YouTube side.
Okay.
Okay. So, okay, we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. So, you're just blowing my mind. Honestly, I am. I don't know. I'm gonna be thinking about this conversation probably like the rest of the evening because it's just so good. But I'm still leaning into this idea about the fears because we're talking about educators being able to live however they
Mhm,
want, whatever that means to them. I
mhm.
want to just speak more. Can you speak more to this idea of? It seems like from what you're saying, there was a very clear moment that led you to yes, I'm going to do this thing that 20-year-old Becky wanted to
Mhm,
do. Were there any fears that came up? Like you said you were doing your research, you were kind of take a few months
mhm.
to figure some things out, started selling things. Were there any fears that came up for you as you were navigating that transition? Once you made the decision, like, yes, I want to do this. Were there any fears or thoughts that came up around that?
Probably only that I don't speak Spanish well enough to be able to survive down there. What am I thinking? What am I doing? But I admit I'm not a person that plays into fears. Of
Mm,
course, I'm like anybody else. Sometimes there's those negative movies that play out in my head, and I get up. I think I get upset or I start to worry. But that doesn't really last very long with me. I'm a really positive person and I tend to just get excited about what's next. And I just I just believe I had to believe to my core that it was going to be okay. Now I have to admit I did some other research. For example, when I was thinking about all this, I was like, yeah, the Peace Corps. But I also did my other research about, well, how else could I work internationally or live abroad, or
mm,
what other options are there out there for me if this is what I really want to do and just get out of Dodge for a couple years?
mhm,
What other options are out there for me? And so, of course, I thought about things like, well, the Peace Corps, first of all, has a really incredible training program. So that would really be helpful. A lot of other programs don't really give you much of a training program. Or Peace Corps also has, doctors on site and a lot of medical
mhm.
care. So if something really did happen, I would be safe. I would be fine. They would help me out. They have an evacuation program or whatever. Like those are things that cross my mind as a 48-year-old person heading into this. Like,
Mhm,
maybe I need a program that has a little bit more support, has a little bit
mhm.
more cushion, because I really don't know what it's like living and working in another country. I can't imagine that right now. So I was
Yeah,
smart about my choices.
yeah,
And so I guess if I did have some hesitancies, then that drove me to make some secure decisions. But once
mhm.
those decisions were made, then I just felt like, let's just power on. I was so
Yeah.
excited.
It sounds like you took calculated risks.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Because it
absolutely.
is a risk. It is a risk leaving what you've known, selling your stuff, move to another country, don't know the language. Those are all risks that you are taking, but they were calculated. So you were very strategic about how you were kind of moving through this transitional
Right,
period.
right. And of course, I applied to a program that wasn't that far away from the United States, so I wasn't out in the African bush.
Mhm.
So if I needed to get back, at that point, my dad was still alive, and so I needed to get back and see my dad, or
Yeah.
my and I could.
Yeah.
So I mean, I thought about that, and at least I knew a little bit of Spanish, so that was going to make a little things a little bit easier. So yeah, I mean, there was some calculation to it
For
that
sure.
I yeah
So I
yeah.
guess when we're thinking about encouraging our fellow teacher friends,
Mhm.
because I think there is a lot of fear around I might have and let's just, speaking candidly, education in
Mhm.
2024, especially post-pandemic, is
Yeah.
not the same, as it
No.
was.
No.
There was a time, folks were being, able to retire from education and it was more of a seamless process.
Mhm.
Now, I feel like when I talk to teacher friends, it's like pushing the ones who are still there, because many of my teacher friends have transitioned to other things outside of the classroom,
Yeah.
but it's like a pushing and an ache and some kind of sometimes a depression and a confusion and a pain trying to make it to retirement, not like
Yeah.
I'm still in it. I'm still passionate
Right.
about it. So for our teacher friends who will see this and like are encouraged but are still fearful, like, wait, at least I'm gonna get paid every 2 weeks. I'll just stick it
Right.
out until I retire. What would you
Right.
say to those teacher friends?
So, I guess my statement would be you just have to trust. You have to trust that you're going to be okay.
Mhm.
And so let me back that up with a little bit of my own data, my own experience. Sure, when I came to the Peace Corps, 2 years, and I'm going to go back, and I'll have an apartment, I'll have my job back, and I remember clearly in the paperwork of my finances as we were separating bank accounts and things like that. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get a pension for 10 more years at least, right? Like more like 12.
Wow.
I can't survive that. Like I was already there. Like, I don't know how I can survive that. And so
Wow.
Peace Corps was an opportunity for me to just take a break, right? To take a break and learn something new and grow professionally and personally. And then I'll come back and okay, I'll be able to, suffer through for 10 more years kind of thing. And
Mhm.
once I got here and realized that, wow, I have the opportunity. It's true, I'm living in a different country, but I have the opportunity to teach at the university. How fun is that?
Yeah.
And I have the opportunity to teach adults, right? How fun is that?
Mhm.
And wow, like I can do other things with my master's of education. I don't have to slave away in the United States public school system. Now, I love those kids and I loved every bit of my job, but it wasn't until I left it or I took a leave from it that I
Mhm.
realized how burnt out I was and how jaded I was. I
Mm.
didn't really realize up until that point that idealistic Becky was not showing up in front of the classroom anymore after 18 years. That
Mhm.
once I got down here and I was teaching something different, I got so excited and I was really passionate again. And I thought, who are you? Like, where have you been? And I realized how burnt I really was. And I really think it took all 2 years that I was down here to get over how burnt out I really was. Like, I
Oh
just
gosh.
shocked at how much time it took me to really feel like in my bones I was
Mhm.
rested again. It was that hard. It was
Are you
that
trying to make me cry right in this moment? You are giving me the words that I I feel like I haven't been able to articulate because I haven't been back very long, as we were talking before we went live. I've not
yeah.
been back to the States very long. It's
Uh-huh.
only
Right.
been maybe 2 months. And
Yeah.
I just wanna say right now, thank you, because that I feel like for the 13 months that I was gone, the first 6 months, was just after 15 years in education, go, 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 was just in
Interesting.
my body.
Yeah, it would
Like,
just I was exhausted in my body. And here I am trying to get over that, like you, in a new culture, in a new language. And that
wow,
wasn't working so well. So
wow.
it was hard. It was really hard. But and that's what, I mean, the decision came when my district emailed me and said, okay, we want to know, are you coming back? Do you expect your position back, in the following year? And I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but that's not it anymore. I loved it, and I was such a good teacher for so long, but
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore. I have to give back in other ways. I got to figure it out. And so Peace Corps actually, I mean, ended really abruptly. I was evacuated all in a few hours because of the pandemic. So
Ah,
March of 2020 had us all on a charter flight heading back to the United States. And by this time, both of my parents had passed away. And so I moved in with my brother and his wife and his kids for a while. But the whole time in the United States, I just kept thinking, I really miss Latin America.
yeah.
I miss the familial culture. I miss my easy lifestyle down there. I miss the fact that these people work really hard, but they go home at the end of the day and they spend time with their families. And weekend is about picnics and football and, sitting out by the river. And I just really fell in love with a life that was more about life than working, right?
Oh my gosh.
More about yourself than working. And so I thought, I got to get back. So that's how I kind of made my way through Mexico and then Colombia. And I was just dabbling in kind of being a backpacker because that's something else Becky always wanted to do when she
Oh,
was
I love
kids.
that.
She wanted to be a backpacker around South America. And, like, I don't know, I was just kind of gutsy when I was younger. And I
Yeah.
wanted to get back to that gutsy Becky. Like, let's see what you can do. And so I was dabbling like 3 months at a time, 4 months at a time. And I was doing some volunteer work while I was finding different volunteer jobs to do, and some of it was teaching, but some of it was working in a hostel or working in a bakery or working in a nature preserve. So I just was having fun, kind of just living different lives and learning different things and just having a lot of fun with that. And in the meantime, I became braver and braver and braver with my Spanish and
Ooh,
with just getting on a bus and going somewhere else. And
yeah.
so I got this last year, I've spent the whole last year and a half down in Patagonia, in Argentina and Chile, just loving my life and
Love that.
teaching online and just living the dream,
You
really. Just
you're living so this hiking, is that like, what is a through hike? That you're
Okay,
preparing for
so
that,
my next big adventure, as I was
right?
hiking around the Andes in Argentina, because I've always been a hiker and a backpacker, where you put on your backpack and you fill it with your tent and your sleeping bag and your cook stove and your food,
Wow.
and I've always done that since my 20s and my 30s, my 40s, but only for like 5 days at a time or 10
Yeah.
days at a time, all around Oregon and Washington, which is where I lived, but hiking around Argentina, in the Andes Mountains in Argentina, I reminded myself that another thing that Becky wanted to do in her 20s was hike the Pacific Crest Trail. This is a long trail.
How long is it?
It is 2,650 miles long. It
Wow.
starts at the Mexican-California border outside of San Diego. It
Uh-huh.
goes across the Mojave Desert, up through the Sierra Mountains, through Yosemite National Park and Kings Canyon and all of that, into Northern California, up across the spine of Oregon through the Cascade Mountains, up across Washington through the Cascade Mountains, and then into Manning Park, Canada. And it takes somewhere between 4 and 6 months to do it.
Wow. And
And
when do you leave
so
to start that journey?
So, it's crazy enough as this is. there are thousands of people that want to do this every year. So there's actually like a lottery permit system that you have to apply for and win in order to be able to do this.
Oh,
And
wow.
I did all the research and I applied and I sat back and I thought, if the universe wants me to do this big final dream of Becky, then you're going to get a permit.
Woo! Woo, woo,
So
woo,
I
woo.
start April 7th, and that is my assigned day to be out, to be at the California Mexico border, where I start walking north for months.
And will you run into other people that are
Yes,
along?
there are actually 50 people a day that start. So I will make fast friends with all of them, and they're people from all over the world. They come in, and the United States actually gives 6 months recreation permits just for people to do this. And yeah, and so I do not know if I'm going to make it to Canada, but I am going to give it a really good try, and it's going to be a great adventure, whatever part I do get to do. And
Wow, Becky. Wait, so
so
did you sleep outside the whole duration of it?
yeah,
You're
the
never
whole
in, like, a
time.
hotel or
Yeah, I do get to every 5 or 6 days. There's a kind of a town that you go into, and you get more groceries and food and stock up again. And so I could get hotels when I need it. In those
Oh, wow.
little.
So are you gonna be sharing your journey on, like, social media so
I will be. I
check
will
in
be.
on you
Yeah,
and
yeah,
see
yeah,
where you are?
yeah, yeah. The good and the bad and the ugly, right? The blisters, the
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
the chafing, the
Man.
hot, yeah, the hot, the cold, the freezing, the snow, yeah,
I
post holing through the Sierras in the snow. Yeah, I've been taking to prepare. These are the kind of things, right? So you already know that, like I was making my calculated risks to get in the Peace Corps. Well, I'm
yeah.
doing the same thing to do this adventure.
Mhm.
I took a wilderness first aid class so that I'll survive. I'm
Wow.
practicing up on my compass and my map, and I have a GPS system that I bought into, so I'll be tracked. I'm learning. I took some online classes of how to like cross glaciers and avalanche fields, and how to walk through rivers, up to here with your backpack above your head, that
Oh
kind of
my
stuff. So
gosh.
I am like, it's just so fun to keep learning new things in your adventures, right? And just pushing your body and seeing what you can do. And you know what? The bottom line, it's going to be okay.
It's
I'm
go
going to be okay.
you're
It might not be, there will be times that I am hot, I am cold, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm exhausted.
mhm.
I'll have blisters and rashes, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, but
Hard is not
isn't that
impossible.
what that's kind of what the journey of life is all about,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So,
Hard is not
yeah,
impossible. It
so
might be hard, it
hard
may
is
be
not.
challenging, it's not impossible.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you have
yeah, and
support
especially, yeah,
of family and
yeah,
friends, like, look like, as you're going through all this journey, the through hike, but just your entire transition over the last few years, did you feel like you had support of, like, the people closest to you? Because I think that's another fear that
yeah,
folks run up against of, like, I wanna like me, I wanna start this business. It would have been hard if people that are close to me would be like, "No, you should just stick to what you're like, don't do that, that's
yeah,
too much." You might
right,
not
right,
how
right.
do you kinda deal with that?
That's a great question. I feel like I had a lot of support,
Good.
friends. My family, they thought it was really pretty great that I was quitting life and going to the Peace Corps for a while, but now they're a little like, well, why don't you come home?
Uh-huh.
But I like my life down here. And I want to be clear. I was going to make a point earlier. My life down here is not luxurious.
Mhm.
I admit, am I online? I am making pennies compared to what I made in my teaching salary.
Mm.
I know that. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm much happier. I don't I don't have things. I have a backpack, which means that I really have about 4 tops and 3 pants and
Mhm.
maybe 2 pairs of shoes. That's all
Mhm.
I have. I don't have
Mhm.
a car. I don't have a house. I like right now I'm living on the road, and
Wow.
that's working for me for now. There is
Right.
a time that I really want to settle down and find more of a community and
Mhm.
maybe go back and find a school again to work in again. And so I see that is all possible in my future. But
Yeah.
right now, I'm living with a lot less, and I
Mhm.
don't have any luxuries in my life. You know, I'm eating street food, and I live in a dormitory most often with other travelers, or I just rent a room from a family maybe for a while, but all of that is in trade for just uh, freedom and
I would
so
say
much
that's a
energy.
luxury.
I have
That's a
so
luxury.
much energy and so much excitement and passion for what I'm getting to do right now because I always wanted to do it and I never had the chance. And so
Yeah.
now I'm doing it, but it's true, I don't have my beautiful home anymore at this moment. I don't have my car anymore. I don't have luxuries from back from the United States. And I go back and I visit my family and I go, wow, look at all of this stuff they have. And I don't have stuff
Which
anymore.
also it sounds like you recognize that you don't need and I hear you like the word luxurious more of like by American standards, but the luxury of freedom and time and having more energy and
I work about 30 hours a week right now, and when the sun is out, I go play. I don't really
yes,
have to, and I just am enjoying my life so much more. And every day is a gift, and I just it's so much more meaningful
yeah.
than all that I had before. Yeah.
So I feel like you answered this question in everything that you just said, and I'm still going to ask it in case there's anything else that you elevate.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So the biggest difference, what would you say is the biggest difference that you see in who you are as a person today compared to when you were working like a full time 9 to 5? Like, what would
Right,
you say is the
right.
biggest difference that you recognize in yourself?
I just appreciate the small moments in life more. I have time. I have time. I'm relaxed. I have much less gray hair. I'll be totally honest about that. I remember, I can't even remember life before bags under my eyes. And
Wow.
I don't have bags under my eyes anymore. I don't have that. I feel so much healthier. I've discovered that I actually like cooking, right? Like, who knew? Every day after school, when I would come home and I would just like, eat something raw and cold cereal or whatever because
Mhm.
I just didn't have the energy to do it. And now
Yeah.
I have the energy and it's fun and I have the energy to learn new things and just do so much more. I really like who I am. I want to say that I don't think I personally have changed a lot, but
Mhm.
my attitude about life and about just appreciating the little moments in life and just being so grateful
Mm.
for every moment of every day. I just live more to the fullest right now. I really do. And so it's really good. And I don't want to go back. And if that means that I will only still have 4 shirts and 3 pants for the next 20 years, then that's okay with me right now
Yeah.
because I just love my freedom and my life that I can live the way I want to live right now. And it's good. And I'm still doing good in the world and
Yeah.
still doing good for others, but I'm a better person for myself. That's for sure.
I love that. I feel like that's like you tied a beautiful bow for the end of our time together. And you gave us all a reminder of what happens essentially when you step out on faith. Like you were strategic, you did your research, but you didn't know what was going to happen on the other side until you actually put one foot in front of the other and did the thing and tried it.
But
And
you
now
just have to trust. The world is a really good place.
yeah.
And you just have to trust. It'll be okay and you'll be okay. If you're meant to do something else, it'll work. It'll work.
I believe that. You've given me
Yeah.
so much encouragement. I'm gonna hold on to this conversation, like I said, certainly the rest of tonight, but just as I carry on in my own journey. And I hope that for anyone who watches this in the future, that
Mhm.
they will hold on to your words as well. I
Mhm.
really appreciate you. Becky, I just thank you so, so much for sharing space with me today, sharing your story with others. I really think that when people hear it, they're going to feel empowered. I feel empowered. And so, yes, just thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you. It was an honor to